all of us probably have, a good perspective on looking at the three different types of schools. Myself, I have had experience in public, private, and charter schools. I attended public schools all the way through college and even into graduate school. So my family, huge public school advocates. However, I have experienced charter schools, and just to be fair to everyone, I work for and contract with several charter schools here in the city. I also advocate for public schools, and I've worked for private schools as well. So hopefully between us three and those of you out there who have opinions, we can kind of nail this down and eliminate some of the misconceptions, get rid of some of those, rumors that are out there, and really bring some truth to this topic, which is public, private, or charter. Which schools are you sending your kids to and why?
This is On the Couch with Dr. K, a show focused on answering the questions of urban and hip-hop adults rising to reach personal stars in daily life. Now, here's your host, Dr. K.
Yay. Okay, good afternoon. You're on the couch with Dr. K. I am your hostess, Dr. K, and welcome to the show right here on AM 990 Talk Radio. Today's topic is private, public, or charter school. Where are you sending your kid and why? There are lots of questions about this. There are lots of, misconceptions, lots of rumors out there. So we want to fully explore this topic so you, the parent, are able to make an informed decision about where your child is receiving his or her education. I have two very fabulous guests with me today. One is a returning friend, and one is a friend who has not been here, but friends for years. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but we have representation from all walks, all schools here, charter schools, private schools, public schools, parents, non-parents. So we're going to get right into this conversation. If you want to join in, give us a call at 901-260-5926. That's 901-260-KWAM. You can also give us a text or a call right here at 901-607-1600. And we also have another line, 901-261-4209. So let's get to the introductions. Yay! Introductions. So we're going to start off with you, Ms. Hunter. Tell us about yourself.
Hi. Thank you for having me again, Dr. K. My name is Thais Hunter, and I'm a special education coordinator for a charter school in Memphis. Okay. And I also have another perspective because I'm not from Memphis, so that should be very interesting. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Now, have you always taught in charter schools? Have you been in the public school sector?
Yes, I have taught at public schools, but this is being in charter schools where I've been the longest.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And did you go to school as a child at a public school, charter school, or private school?
I went to a public school.
Okay, public education. Yay, one for them. All right. Moving right along, we have the fabulous Mr. Luther Mercer.
Hello. How are you doing?
Hi, fine. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me for the first time.
Yes,
thank
you for being here.
We've been talking about it. Uh-huh. I am the managing director of programs at an institution called New Leaders.
Okay.
We work to transform education here in the city, working as partnership with the district, principal leadership, teacher leadership, previously with a private school here in the city, St. George's Independent School, but have been around in the education sector for a long time on higher education and other places. So
great.
I appreciate you for having me today.
Wonderful. Now, were you educated in a public school, a private school, or a charter school?
Private and public.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay.
So pre-K all the way up through 6 at private.
Okay.
And then the remainder in public.
Okay, good. So I just want you to kind of tell us what your general opinion is. And we're going to start off with you, Luther Mercer. We'll start at the end of the room. Especially now, since you're in a program even at a higher level, and usually those who are at a higher level can see a wider view and a broader perspective on what's going on. So tell us what your thoughts are.
And we're talking specifically about Memphis, or we're talking about the nation, or what?
The nation.
The nation.
Yes.
The nation, as far as education in the nation is concerned, it's a 100-year model, 100-year-old model. And so throughout the last probably 15 years, you've seen a dramatic change of investment from everyone from the Gates Foundation to local funders here across the nation, trying to figure out ways to advance education and meet the skill level for the 21st century.
Right.
And so where we are is that it depends. There are successful charters.
Yes.
There are broken charters. There are successful private schools. There are private schools who basically are like day camps. There are public schools who have done outstanding jobs and continue to send kids all around the country to great schools all around the country. So I think as we delve a little bit deeper today in the topic and get specifics, we can nail out some of those things. But I think the idea generally is that it really does depend. I mean, there's so many factors that are tied into education, and also what your child may need.
Yes.
Which is a key element to looking at the education issue.
Thank you. So, what are your thoughts, Ms. Hunter, so far?
Well, just in general, just thinking about education, I always view it as where does your family come from? Because generally, your family determines what type of education that you're going to receive. And so working at a charter school, I'm really passionate about those who are from low-income areas, that they have a strong school, because we know education is one of the ways out of poverty and to break the cycle of poverty. So just really, how do we make it so that everyone has the same education versus it's a lottery as to what type of education your child's going to have.
So you're really talking about access to education, making sure everyone has the same level of access wherever you choose, making sure that everyone has a choice and they're not basically forced to a certain type of education. And I agree with both of you. I think right now, even though my mother is a staunch public school educator, and she's like, oh, it's horrible now. It's so terrible. But also, I believe, talking more locally right now, here in Memphis, we have a lot of opportunity, more opportunity than we've ever had in Memphis in terms of school choice and being able to really choose, maybe not so much for private schools, even though we know there are a lot of churches, the parochial schools that people are able to choose from as well. But parents really are able to kind of look at least at the charter schools, at the different school districts, and make some decisions about how they want their child educated. And one thing I would like for both of you to address specifically about the charter schools is this notion that charter schools come in and they take all the good kids and they take all the money and they leave the bad kids in public schools. Have you heard that rumor or that notion or that belief, and what would your response to that be? Ms. Hunter.
Okay. My response to that would be is that it is not true. I know for my charter school, we are a neighborhood school. So our priority is for the students in that neighborhood. So before we go out to any other part of Memphis, we're making sure that we are serving the students in our neighborhood. So in terms of bad or good, we don't know how a child's going to be when they come to us, but either way, we make sure we serve them and give them what they need to be successful.
Okay, so you have to take the children who come to you.
Yes.
You're not able to really turn kids away.
Open enrollment in my charter.
Okay. Well, that is different from what a lot of people believe, because I've really heard, that originally that was the pushback on not wanting charter schools to even come to Memphis, because they felt like they were really a danger to the public school system. What do you say to that, Luther Mercer?
Well, again, it's a mix. Yes, there are some schools who are able to attract a specific group of kids, and then that mixture comes into play. I think it's what the discussion has been on the extreme. It's not. That's not what's all is happening. A lot of charter schools have been set up to take over troubled schools. So their whole point is to come in and help to do that. And so charters, I think charters are getting mixed bag. First of all, I think when they first were presented, the advocacy work wasn't done on the front end to the community to really explain what charters were about and what they were trying to do. So then people developed or began to develop their own understanding of what they thought it was, and they built their own narrative. And, for the last 10 years, you'll see sometimes in the paper where a charter will, have some incident or some blow up. There was a recent write-up on a charter that had been here, setting itself up, and then pulled out in 11th hour, say, well, we're not going to do this, we're going to go back. When those things hit the pages, people, the digesting of the information is only through that lens, and so they don't really have a real sense of the overall understanding of charters, what charters are here for and what they're trying to do. At the same time, yes, has it had an impact on public school education? Yes, it has. And I think for me, the real question is, as we're going through this debate, the real focus needs to be on the child. Yes. Where are we going to develop our child to make sure they have opportunity in the future? And so, I'm an advocate for whether it's private, whether it's public, whether it's charter. Hey, look, bring everybody in, ideas, models that's going to help particular children to be able to succeed in any facet. Let's go.
Yes. Yes, I agree. In fact, Bain O'Grady, one of our Facebook friends, says, my 9-year-old is in a charter school in Columbus, Ohio. She is advanced in most areas of her schoolwork. The scores in general at this school are higher than public schools, so I send her to a charter school. So that's, one of our friends there. And let's see here. So we have Flower Power, who says, and this is kind of long, so I'll pick out some of the major points. First of all, she says, thank you, Dr. K, for bringing this topic to the forefront, as I have done some emotional and spiritual research on this topic, and I feel that there needs to be more racial tolerance and diversity within the schools, mainly in the southern states. I grew up in California, all the way to the age of 17. And since the year of 1988, I went to public schools. And the schools there had a lot of racial unity and diversity. Japanese, Vietnamese, white, black, and Mexican. Where is this seen in Memphis, Tennessee, or in any southern state? Nowhere. I've been in Memphis, Tennessee since 1989, and the schools are as segregated as when Dr. Martin Luther King fought against it. No positive change has occurred to make the changes to desegregate the schools. When will positive change come for the schools to be racially tolerant and racially diverse? What's your response to that?
Well, my initial response to say that there hasn't been any changes is not correct.
Okay.
At the same time, there is definitely a need to expand where we know the challenge of a lot of people who had left the school system. They moved out of the county. What were their reasons for moving out of the county to form these, to go into these areas and create these better schools? I mean, we know the history behind some of that. Right. Not all, but some. And so, therefore, the idea of the unified school district, I think, was an idea that we finally could pull together as a county and say, here's where we're going. We saw where there were moves to say, well, we don't want that, so we want to create our own districts in our own area, which I think the person that you just mentioned was highlighting. We're still seeing that come forward. These are challenges. These are, this is a challenge for a historical context within the South. We're still battling that context, and I think we will continue to make strides, but fundamentally, I think our focus needs to be on right now what we can control. Okay. And what we can control is the idea we created this system. We're inside Memphis City, and we got this new system. What do we need to do? Okay. Right. And that's, I can't control that person who says, I want to leave because I don't feel like I want to be associated. Well, that's your loss. Exactly. Because that diversity element is actually going to be a benefit to your child as we go into the 21st century, knowing globalization and other things are here and there now. But if that's the aspect you take, that's fine. We're going to focus on the people who realize that building up a strong Memphis requires us all to be in and be working together. And that and when we have that, we're good.
That sounds pretty good. What are you thinking, Ms. Hunter?
Well, I will say that is one of the first things I noticed when I first moved to Memphis. Mm-hmm. I went to elementary school in California, and I went to middle school and high school in Maryland, and coming down here was very different. Like, okay. I can see her perspective that one type of student may attend certain schools and very separated, but I do think like there does need to be a push for all nationalities. I mean, because it is the bigger world that there are more than just black and white. There's everyone, you know. Right. So just really pushing that students interact with each other so that it's not a surprise if they go somewhere and they may not see someone like themselves. Like, it's just the norm. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's not good to have an all-black school, nor is it good to have an all-white school or an all-anything school. I've always, I know there are a lot of people out there who believe in, all-black male schools, all-girls schools, or all-boys schools. And I think in very few circumstances is that the best situation. I do think we need to learn how to deal with people who are of a different culture, a different background, race, gender. We have to deal with that, and the quicker we start to deal with it, the easier it will be as we go on. In our conversations this week, I've been asking people in the community about this topic, and I've had a few people who really feel like when we're talking about school systems and we're talking about the different types of schools, really it's kind of, this really nice conversation, but the real deal is about money and about who has the money and who is going to be supported. So I have Tanya here who says, public schools work well when they have the financial support needed to invest in our children far past the point of just education and knowledge. We have to stop assuming every child has sufficient or adequate parenting or providers in the home. We also have to stop assuming we can avoid our children having to deal with socioeconomic issues by simply separating them from the masses. The financial means for smaller classes, more guidance counseling, and even psychological assistance is what's missing in all of the school structures.
That's an interesting point. I mean, I've seen it on different levels. Look, financial support, there's no question. Resources matter. There's no question. They have an impact. They have an effect. At the same time, we do know that there's external factors that also contribute. For example, as you said, I remember listening to a gentleman who said, all we need to do is put great teachers in classrooms and then that's it. But what if that child has had this great teacher all day? They go home, but they don't have food. Or they don't, or there's that night they didn't get a proper rest or whatever. That's because of disturbances or whatever else takes place. They come back to school, they fail a test tomorrow, and then they say, oh, this teacher didn't do a great job. There are a lot of factors that play into a child's development. And yes, I think there's no question that we need to invest in that. But this is a societal context that we really have never really gone that far outside of. What you value is what you put your resources in. And when you value all children the same, as was mentioned earlier, when you value all children the same, said everybody deserves equal access, opportunity to be able to have opportunity and progress in the future, then that means a lot of things. That means a lot of factors. And so I agree with the comment being made but what we need to be looking at is much more deeper. And the power issue has always been something here. Specifically, we want to look at the microcosm of Shelby County. Why do we not want to give up the charter? Why do people did want to give up the charter? What centers around that? How much money is being made off the school system every year? Who's benefiting off the school system? So when you're looking at those dynamics and then you play into that and then people not even having a discussion for almost a year about the children, I mean, that's something that we lost in the discussion. And I think we reclaimed some of that. People are demanding certain things and the focus has been kind of recentered. But yes, for a long time, it has been, I think, an issue of power and other things that fit into that dynamic.
Okay, well, we're going to get into our stats and facts after this next break, and I'm going to handle my allergies. So we'll be right back after these messages. Streeter's Total Beauty is a hair salon that invites you to enjoy a lifestyle full of beauty today. Dial 901-649-0559. look to Randa Patton Streeter's lifestyle blog, which also invites you to enjoy a lifestyle full of high fashion and glamour. Like her on Facebook today. Karen Streeter Psychological Consulting is a firm dedicated to helping parents, schools, churches, and organizations assess and treat learning, emotional, and behavior difficulties in children. We offer services such as IQ testing, academic testing, behavior analysis, behavioral planning, preventive counseling, parent training, staff development, professional development, crisis management, and risk assessments, and so much more. To enrich the lives of your children, call Karen Streeter Psychological Consulting at 901-650-2569 or email me at kstreeter5@aol.com. For legal experience with a Christian touch, call the law offices of Attorney Victoria Gillard. We stop foreclosures and repossessions. Other areas of our practice include personal injury, civil and criminal matters, divorce, child support, child custody, and Social Security cases. Call today at 901-624-8852 for a free consultation. Are you considering buying or selling a home and don't know where to start? Call Sharon Brown of Twilight Realtors at 901-355-7271. To learn more about the services offered by Sharon Brown, visit her on the web at www.sharonbrown.cry-like.com or like her on Facebook today. Her success comes when your home is sold or you have the keys to your new home. Call Sharon Brown of Cry Like Realtors at 901-355-7271 for all your real estate needs today. And you're on the couch with Dr. K right here on AM 990 with a blast from the past, ABC from the Jackson 5. And for those of you who are just too young to even know that, yeah, Michael Jackson was in a group prior to being Wacko Jacko. So,
but the kids still love him.
Yes, you know. Mm-hmm. So I was looking for songs that would talk about schooling, and I thought, wow, you know, ABC was the first thing that came to my mind, and it was the first song I found. So we have a caller. Hi, caller. You're on the air. You have a question or a comment?
Yes. Hi, Dr. K. How are you doing? God bless you. This is Flower Power. What I would basically like to comment on is the man that was referring to that if I didn't like, you know, the area to basically, you know, that I wanted to leave. I can guarantee you I'm not. I'm here for the long haul. I'm a I'm a spiritual social justice activist for social change, and I could see some improvements that Memphis is doing, but not basically pursuing hard enough, which I feel that diversity training by Jane Elliott could really work well within the school systems concerning where diversity is concerned, and she teaches on anti-racism diversity training, and she's a very good school teacher. I don't know if anyone's heard of her, but she was on the Oprah show, and anyway, I just wanted to straighten up that comment because since I grew up in California, it's way diverse down there. It's the norm. You know, and I just feel that the southern states could actually be unified with diversity, you know, with all cultures. And plus, everyone can learn from different cultures, from different people, if we just give them the chance.
Wow. Thank you so much, Flower Power. I'm always so tickled to hear that, number one, anybody's listening. And number two, someone that I actually talked about actually listens and calls in. So thank you for making our day here and also clearing up that part. And yes, a lot of us are aware of some of the racial sensitivity and tolerance that Ms. Elliott has talked about. And actually, it's been years ago when she talked about the blue eyes and the brown eyes and just how emotionally charged that particular experiment was. So thank you so much for bringing that up. And please call back and continue to listen, okay?
Oh, I will. God bless you so much, and God bless you for the work that you do for the people, Dr. K.
Thank you, and the same to you. God bless you.
Okay,
if
God
you'd
bless
like
you
to participate in this conversation, give us a call at 901-260-5926. And we are about to go into our stats and facts, which were researched by my super intelligent intern, Stanley Shotwell II. Thank you, Stanley. He's so sweet and nice and smart, and wow. I know you all wish you had a Stanley, but there are only two, and one is taken up by, one is owned by his mom, that's his dad, and then, I guess you're actually owned by your mom too, so I'll just be second. I borrow you every Sunday, so I appreciate that. This is what we were looking at in our stats and facts this week. We wanted to look at, number one, the number of students enrolled in public, private, or charter schools, and the graduation rates, and some of the ratings of the public, private, and charter schools. And when we say ratings, we were really trying to look at how they scored on different tests. So when we're looking at just the numbers, and this is coming from the National Center for Education Statistics, and this was in 2011 and 12. Most kids, 49.5 million students, are enrolled in public elementary and secondary schools. The next largest number, 5.3 million students, are enrolled in private schools, excluding pre-kindergarten students who were enrolled in private schools that did not offer at least one grade of kindergarten or higher. And then the smallest number would be 2.1 million students who are enrolled in public charter schools. So then, and that information came from the National Center for Education Statistics. Then we wanted to kind of look at, quote unquote, the report cards. And this also comes from that same place. And in general, it looks at knowledge and skills of the nation's students in grades 4, 8, and 12. And it says students in private schools consistently score well above the national average. At all three grades, a significantly higher percentage of private school students score at or above the basic, proficient, and advanced levels than public school students. And so I'm just going to read you just some in general. In the fourth grade, at the basic level, 82% of private kids, 62% of public kids. In grade 8, 91% of the private school kids score at the basic level, 77%. And then, and that is in the area of reading. In math, in the fourth grade, 87% of private schools, 82% of public schools. In the eighth grade, 83% of private schools and 73% of public schools are scoring at least at the basic level. Now, for science, at the basic level, it drops for everybody. Nobody likes science. Private schools, 77%, and public schools, 64%. So, when we're looking at this, it seems like if you have money, you just do better. I mean, that's how it's looking almost, because when you're talking about some of the children who are in those private schools, although there are some private schools which are not necessarily, linked up to money. I used to work at a private school. They had all of the money in the world. I mean, every year we would have to sit around and think up how to spend money. Those were the days. But, those kids didn't necessarily learn any better than any other kids. So although money is great, you also have to have the programming and the skilled professionals there to teach the kids to really reach those indicators. So thank you for that. We have a caller?
Yes, we do.
All right. Hi, Mike. You're on the couch with Dr. K. You have a question or a comment?
Well, yeah, it's a question and then a comment, if I can. The question I would ask is, at what point does the institution become more important to the cause by which the institution was created? And at which point does the support of that institution over the cause become a complete abandonment of the cause for which it was created in the first place?
Wow, that is a great question, Mike. Thank you so much. I'm going to let Luther Mercer respond to that. Go ahead.
Well, I guess the question, the premise is, or you got to start with, why was the institution created? And so education, or the public education system as we know it today, was created to fuel an economy. So people were skilled up to be able to enter into an economy. So agrarian, moving into industrial age, and now into the high tech or service sector, high skilled sector as we know it today. Let's take Memphis as a microcosm. Memphis was a warehouse. Okay, even before FedEx arrived, cotton, agricultural goods, go down Mississippi River. People didn't need high level skills because they worked in these different dynamics. We move into FedEx coming in around 74. The hub, people around in the 80s were able to get out of high school with a basic education, go out to the hub, make $40,000 a year, which was a great job at that time, and that's all they needed. We move into the 90s with globalization, technology. FedEx becomes more efficient. Other industries become more efficient. They need a high-skilled labor worker. Jobs are being reduced. All of a sudden, you look at your pool and you look at your education system can no longer feed your economy that's been created. So now we're trying to gear up or retool an educational system in Memphis that was never designed to put out very high skill labor and people who were able to participate. So you take that microcosm, you apply it to the country. What does our education system usually center around, especially in the public arena? It is centered around the economy. What are the skill base that is needed in order to fuel an economy, for people to go out and have opportunity? So since that's what the education system is geared for, maybe we should be having a conversation of, should we be focusing primarily on saying, hey, let's work on education, maybe education, those who becoming thinkers, critical thinking, creativity, other things will go out from these schools and create a different type of economy. But I think we're still geared towards, here's our economy, here's where it is. We now need to tool our education to fit that dynamic. And that's what I primarily see when we're talking about anything. And then private schools were always geared towards the elite, wealthy, to continue to perpetuate wealth.
Yes.
So, so exactly. the idea that they are still doing that
is not surprising. Exactly.
I mean, because that's what they were designed to do.
Right.
So I think sometimes we don't back up and just look at the reality. Here's what it is. Now we need to decide what we want, what type of systems we want, how this is supposed to function. But I think I don't think that's really where we have our conversations. It's always about, have they met the test score?
Yes.
Have they done
Exactly.
And so, okay, wait. Well, since you were about to go, go.
Well, no, then I'm going to say, well, then what are our assessments really measuring?
Yes.
Like, are we preparing our students, like you said, to be critical thinkers, or do we need them to know how to pull out the main idea about a paragraph about mountains or something? It needs to be more relative, more meaningful, because that's not really what we're assessing right now.
Well, Mike, you have really taken this conversation into a great direction. Have we answered your question? And I certainly thank you for your comment and hope you call again, okay?
Well, I was going to make one quick point, and then I'll hop off, and I appreciate your forum. The one point that you've not covered is homeschooling, and the parents taking responsibility to raise their children in whatever capacity that they have. There is one clear fact: you will never find an Amish child in a prison. And you can quote me on that, and you can verify it yourself by checking with the Tennessee Department of Corrections. They homeschool, and they homeschool. And I'm not Amish. I'm not pushing for Amish traditions. My point being is that there are things that work, and if we focus on trying to apply the things that work as opposed to propping up things that are a failure and redressing them, going from public schools to a charter school, which is nothing more than another, government-controlled educational form. If you go back to the Bible and the parents raise their children, then you eliminate so many problems. And I can tell you, the fathers, Memphis is a wasteland. I'm 54, and I grew up in Memphis, and I grew up around people of various races because as a teenager, we traveled in the military. And in California, yes, if you lived on a military base, you saw diversity in public schools. If you're in Washington State or Texas at a military base, you saw diversity. However, if you're in the heartland of California, you didn't see diversity. If you're in the very northern part of California, there was no diversity. So just to say California is not to look at the location. Specific locations have unique microcosms of culture, and that's a good thing. And what I learned in Texas, other than learning that the academics there are far and away superior than Tennessee, I hate to say that, but it's the truth. What I learned is that, yes, you can learn culture from all these different folks, but what you're going to find when you're in the higher academic classes, only those of those culture who are equally situated are going to be there among you. And what you have in common with these people is the love of knowledge and the desire to learn and the support that you'll get from those classes, and those teachers are geared towards those students that really want to learn and have that capacity. And everybody else, they fall in their own little lot, the general population, as they call it at TDOC, of course. But the reality is, if you look at TDOC, the Tennessee Department of Correction, you'll find that the majority of the inmates do not have a high school diploma. They're studying for their GED. And it's not because they didn't go to school. It's because they weren't taught. And
Mike, thank you so much for your very titillating comments, and I hope you continue to listen and continue to participate in the conversation. And just to be devil's advocate, because I have to be, because this is my show, we have not seen an Amish president either. Just to put that in there. Go ahead, Luther Mercer.
And that was a comment about the Amish. I mean, it's not really a correct analogy based on the fact that what they do train their people to do is to stay within the community.
Right, exactly. And to not get in trouble and to not think differently. Yes, right.
Exactly. And they never leave the enclave, and that's a whole. But again, that's a whole other discussion. But I also believe, there was a lot of statements made, and just to bring it back to the point of, he did make a comment about looking at our prison systems. There is a correlation between education and crime, and yes, not all of those. A large number of those people have not made it through schools. Matter of fact, they're dropouts. A lot of them, by third grade, they pretty much gave up because they didn't have the reading capacity.
Exactly.
Large number of illiterate people. So again, yes, there's the correlation he made about crime and education. There's no question about that, because education deems opportunity, but you have to dissect that.
Exactly.
You got to break that apart, and then you also have to look at how, in some communities, what's happening. Some schools, what's happening. So generally speaking, on the general statement, not absolutely correct, but on points of what we need to be looking at and why this is happening, yes.
Yes, and actually I had a text immediately from Randa, and she says, homeschooling, the student has to be very disciplined. Right. And that is true. Yes. If you're talking about homeschooling or letting kids, I know there are lots of kids now who are participating in like pathways in education where they are in control of how they're learning. That works for a certain type of student and a certain type of family. And wow, our time is just really flying by, which leads us into our 4-point star for today, because I want to touch on some of these. It's the 4 P's of education. So we're talking about people. Y'all say it with me. People. Programs. Policies. And the price. Okay. Number 1, people. You need to look at the people involved with the school, and the first person you need to look at is your child. What are their needs? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? You need to look at the personnel at the school. Are they licensed teachers? Are they good teachers, bad teachers? Look at the administration, and then look at those students who are at the school. Will your child work well with that type of student and in that environment? Next, you need to look at programs. Does that school have the program that is the best for your child? Honestly, in the situations I've looked at, private schools and charter schools in general work best for those kids who are closest to the middle.
Yes.
If you have a child with some sort of disability in the extreme, I'm sorry, but a private school is not for your child. Right. And probably a charter school is not for your child because they end up having to go to the public schools to receive services for those kids. So unless you find a private school who is dedicated to that particular problem that your child has, you probably want to stick with public schools. Conversely, if your child is artistic or they're sports oriented or have any of these special gifts and talents, again, some schools may not be able to provide for them. So you really want to take time out to look at the programs that exist in that school. Next, you need to look at the policies. And when I'm talking about policies, I mean the purpose of the school, the mission of the school, how they run the school, because that may indicate whether or not your child is going to do well at that school. If the purpose of that school is to get rid of the weak links, and you know your child is probably a weak link, that's not the school to send your child to. Maybe the purpose of the school is to be very inclusive and to look at all different types of kids, and they have a lot of differentiated learning. That may be the school for your child. So you have to look at the purpose and the policies. Why is that school in existence? And sometimes we stick to that too much. Some parents, they get all up in arms about a certain school that's being eliminated because of historical reasons. They don't even look to see that maybe this school isn't working any longer. The purpose is no longer there, but they just want their kid to be, a North Side Wolverine because they were. And maybe we need to start just looking more critically at what we're choosing because lastly, P, the price. Are you able to pay the price that it will cost for your child to go to that school? And I don't only mean literally how much money will it cost, but how much time will you need to invest as a parent? Will you need to drive across town? Will you need to, be involved in a lot of things? Will your child be able to get everything they need at that particular school? So when we're looking at education, we need to look at the 4 Ps. You need to look at the people, the policies, the programs, and the price. And that is our 4-point star for today. And we're almost out of time, and I get so tired of saying we're almost out of time. So On the Couch with Dr. K is growing. We are moving to 2 hours from 5:30 to 7:30 on Tuesday evenings. And because we're doing that, that means that we have gotten to the point where we have to say a sweet farewell to KWAM 990. This is our next to last show here in this wonderful studio. It has been a fabulous time here, but it's time for us to move on. My listeners and my supporters have really helped me to come to this decision, which has been a very difficult one because I love being here. I love all of my station mates. However, there's a larger call out there. And so we're moving to the very first bilingual station that was just approved by the FCC here in Memphis, 98.5 New Mix FM. So you will be able to listen to us there beginning in July, the first Tuesday in July. We will also be on Blog Talk Radio And we will still continue to be on YouTube. So you will now have new ways to listen and participate. You can listen on the radio. You can call in and listen to us via Blog Talk Radio. You can also catch the old shows on YouTube. You can participate via Facebook, Twitter, email, texting, all of that good stuff. So hopefully everyone will really enjoy our new expanded model. Please continue to send us ideas and your thoughts, ideas for new programs, because we'll need them as we will double our time. So I'm just so excited about moving to our new place. Stanley was there with me, and he goes, yeah, this is a different level. So we're all moving to a different level. So we're very excited about that. And everybody gets 10 seconds to shine here. So Ms. Thais, what would you like to say in your last 10 seconds?
I would just like to say, just get out there, check out the different schools that are available here in Memphis, and I hope everyone has a wonderful and safe Memorial holiday.
All right. Thank you. And Mr. Luther Mercer.
Thank you again for having me on the show.
Thank you for being here.
And to be a part of a very important discussion. And,
yes.
Hopefully, again, some people gleaned something from our conversation. Mm-hmm. And again, to just follow up, have a happy Memorial Weekend.
Thank you. Thank you. You two have been absolutely fabulous and wonderful. And to my listeners out there, as always in parting, I wish you a life full of love, peace, and happiness. Remember, if you cannot be in love, then at least try to be happy. And if you can't be happy, then at least try to be peaceful. But when your peace has been disturbed, it's time for you to find a new situation. We will see you next week for the very last time right here on the radio at AM 990 KWAM. You've been listening to On the Couch with Dr. K. Thank you, and we will see you next week.